So this is Sean with Voices Live On. I'm speaking with Kim Huck. And Kim, you are in the hometown of the family, which is Tell City. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you've got a husband named Pete. Is that right?
Right. That's right.
And how long you guys been together?
We've been together since 96.
Since 96. That's a good time. That's almost 25 years. You got your 24 years, 25 years right in there?
Right. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so you were born in Tell City. What was the first day of your life, the day and month? Like
When was I born?
Yeah, what's your birthday? What's your birthday?
Okay. February 22nd, 1957.
1957. So you're 7 years younger than Dusty. I just got off the phone with Dusty.
Yes.
Okay. So sometimes this is hard, but the easy way to do this is picture the house, picture maybe the kitchen, picture the yard, picture your room, picture the family. What's one of the first memories you could go back to? What's the earliest thing you can kind of remember just in life?
Okay, the earliest thing for me was living at 1040 10th Street here in Tell City, hometown. And Joanne, the girls, well, all those kids actually slept upstairs, okay? And when Joanne would come home in the evenings, late at night, then I'd go crawl in bed with her.
That's very sweet.
So,
okay. All right, so when you were little, you know, you're amongst a bunch of different kids, and what was the ranking of you as far as oldest to youngest?
The oldest to youngest. Well,
Were you like the third oldest or the fourth oldest, or?
I am the baby.
You are the baby.
I am the youngest. I am the baby, yeah, as my mother always called me.
Okay, you are the baby. All right. So being the baby, you got picked on a lot, and you got away with a lot of stuff.
No.
Maybe?
No, I was not picked on. They all said I was spoiled. I guess by the time I came around, they all had mom and dad wore down from all of their antics that I got away with everything. Yeah, I was spoiled.
All right, so what's some of the earliest memories you have with your grandparents?
Oh, my grandparents, maybe in Big Boy. I used to ride my bike out to, they lived out by the Forest Rangers station here in town. I think it's like on 16th, 17th Street. And I used to ride my bike out there and sit on their porch early in the morning and wait until they woke up. And when they got up and opened their door to get their newspaper, there I was.
That's fun. So what's some of the stuff that you guys would do at their house?
Well, my grandma liked to play the piano. So we would, she would play the piano and we would sing old songs. And she also was, I think they called it a gray lady or a candy stripe lady at the hospital where she volunteered. And she would talk about that. And I remember my grandpa being a guard at GE here in town. They used to come to our house all the time when we lived at 425 9th Street. That was my mother's. My mom was born in that house. So the home was always in the family. And my grandparents, being Big Boy, would bring in baskets full of food all the time because we had all these children, you know, so they always helped out a lot.
That's neat. All right, so as far as you being able to do one-on-one time was probably hard with your grandparents, but what's maybe a one-on-one memory you can remember with your grandma?
One-on-one memory with Grandma. She always liked to play cards.
Remember,
she would play cards with kids.
What was the game? What type of card game?
where you turn them all over, and then you had to find the matching cards. You know, you draw till you found the matching cards.
So go fish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what about, did you remember any one-on-one stuff with your grandpa?
Okay, with Grandpa, Big Boy is what we called him. He had those Prince Albert cans of tobacco, and he would put his change in that tobacco can. And when us kids were good, or when we'd do something, little chores, he would let us go pick out some coins, so we would have a little bit of spending money.
That's pretty neat. I think I also heard from Marky talking about that, and he said that maybe there was something also to do at Christmas. He might bring that out at Christmas or something.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We used to have to try to guess how much was in there, and then they would end up giving kids, I guess it was the whole container or whatever.
That's cool. All right, so I'm going to close this session out about your grandparents. We're going to talk about your parents.
About my parents, okay.
Sean with Voices Live On. I'm speaking with Kim. Huck, you are down in Tell City, and we just talked about the grandparents. We're going to talk about your parents, Virgil and Margie. So if you were going to describe each of their personalities separately, what would be some characteristics of your dad, and what would be some characteristics of your mom?
Okay. My dad was, he was more stern than Mom, and my mom was a pushover. You could get by with anything with Mom.
So what'd you get away with?
With Mom, we would get away with a lot. But when Dad found out, that's when we'd have to pay. But Mom, she would just shake her head and say, wait until your father finds out.
So what's some of the stuff you do around the house with your mom?
Well, us girls, with Mom and Dad always worked outside of the house. So us girls would always have to make sure the house was kept clean, everything picked up, and we would help Mom by starting our meals in the evening. Then when she got home from work, she would finish it, and then we all took turns doing dishes. I was taking piano lessons, so a lot of times I got out of doing dishes because Mom would help me with my piano lessons while all the older kids had to do the dishes. See, I was spoiled. So I got out of that.
That's neat. So what's some of the stuff you do with your dad? Or some memories you remember what your dad would be doing around the house? Or are you doing stuff with your dad?
Okay, well, Dad just worked down the block. It was about 3 blocks down. And I could see him coming home, so I would get to walk down the street. You know, Mom would let me walk. Gosh, I was young before I was 10 years old. I would walk down the street and meet him and walk home with him just about every day, and then walking back at lunch, and then meeting at 5 when he got off of work and walk back home. So that was kind of our me and Dad time.
That's pretty sweet. So, you know, let's talk about the holidays for a little bit. What are some of the traditions in your house at the holidays? How would Christmas Eve go with the parents? How would, you know, the presents and just that whole dynamic? Describe the holidays, Christmas, and the family, and how your parents would handle certain roles, do certain traditions, hide presents. Kind of describe the structure of that.
Okay. Back when, well, our aunts and uncles used to come over for the holidays, too, because, like I said, my mom was born and raised in that house, so everybody, that was the home place for everybody. So when they all got together for holidays, it was always at 425 9th Street, and the house was packed. Everybody had gifts. The living room was full of gifts. There was actually 3 doors into the living room, and Mom and Dad would close those doors off. That's where Santa was in there working. And then when everybody would go to church that evening, then somebody would stay behind to get all the presents ready for when church got out, and we came home and Santa had been there. So it was always a lot of food around and everybody opening gifts.
That's pretty great. So having that many kids to buy for, I'm sure the kids didn't get a ton of presents each, but what's something you remember getting that you were really excited about?
Well, I received one year at Christmas. Dad was always strict about us kids had to put our bicycles in the basement because somebody would steal them if we left them laying out in the front yard. So I was sad about leaving my bike in the front yard. Well, it disappeared, and I was so upset. And, of course, back then we didn't have money, and I don't know how Mom and Dad did it, but I ended up getting a new bike at Christmas. But Dad had taken my bike and traded it in on a new one for me for Christmas. So they had one of those 3 doors. It was hidden behind the door at Christmas. So when they opened that door, there was my new bike. So that's what I remember.
That's pretty great. That's almost like a movie, like the Christmas Story. So, so what's some of your favorite things about your mom?
Favorite things about my mom?
Yeah.
My mother was a saint. Everything. The way she treated other people, what she did for us kids. I really can't say enough to how I feel for my mom. She had the biggest heart.
What do you think she taught you the most? Like, what kind of characteristics did developed in you that maybe weren't there when you were a kid, but now, as you're an adult and you look back, you really kind of invoke those characteristics from your mom?
Probably the biggest one is be truthful and be kind.
Okay. Any skills or any crafts or any things you see in your hands that your mom taught you or your dad taught you?
No. I just said I was taking piano lessons, but I didn't keep that up. Once I was an adult, I gave that up. No, not really.
Okay. So as far as your dad, what's some words of advice that always kind of ring in your ears, or words of discipline or wisdom or whatever? What are those words that kind of ring in your ears from your dad?
Rings in my ears from my dad.
What would he always say to kind of motivate you or make you think about how to treat people or your brothers and sisters or whatever? What's some things you just remember him always kind of saying to get you motivated or keep you in line or give you some inspiration?
And the inspiration that Dad gave us is in church, if you were misbehaving and he would lean forward and look at you, you straightened up. He didn't have to say anything, just that look, and you knew you crossed the line. So.
Okay. So he always basically talked straight to you, and you always knew you better listen to whatever words of advice he gave.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Because when you got his attention, he knew that you, I don't know how to explain it. If you got his attention, you knew you triggered something in him, So he meant business.
And he meant business. All right, well, that's great. Well, listen, I'm going to close this segment out about the parents. We're going to talk about your siblings.
Okay.
This is Sean with Voices Live On. I'm speaking with Kim Huck. You're down in Tell City, where everybody was raised. As far as the Rhodes family, we were just talking about your grandparents. We did a segment about your parents, and now we're going to talk about the siblings. So, you were the baby, right? Is that
Yes.
fact? So Kim was the baby. So again, what year and day were you born?
I was born February 22nd, 1957.
1950.
George Washington's birthday.
George Washington's birthday. That's pretty neat.
George Washington's birthday, yes.
Well, I also heard that your family was a little political, and they've got this thing about the Kennedys and whatnot. But we're gonna touch on your brothers and sisters. So, kind of one at a time. Peppy, how would you describe Peppy, her personality, and kind of how she was with you when you were little?
Kathy and Joanne both, being the oldest two, they pretty well raised me. You know, on our home movies back then, one of them, either Pep or Joanne, one of them always had me by the hand. You know, there were so many of us that Mom just didn't have a big enough lap and hands to go around, so Pep and Joanne always stepped up and took care of us.
That's cool. All right, so Dusty being the oldest brother, how would you kind of describe Dusty with the other siblings and how he was around the house?
Let's see. And my oldest brother, Don, which we all call him Dusty, he's always laid back. He's the most laid back. Between him and Jim, I don't know. But Dusty is really laid back. I don't remember him in grade school or high school because of our age difference, but I do remember when he worked at Sears in Evansville, and we would go down and see him. And I remember his apartment on Haney's Corner, which was a bad district in Evansville back then, but that's where he lived at. And we would drop in on him. And sometimes he would be working, and sometimes he would be home. We just had to check and see. But I do remember when he was living in Evansville, he was going to Sam's, I think it was Sam's Technical College. It's where he went to school one time. But other than that, when he left Evansville, he moved to Fenton, Missouri. And I remember Mom and Dad taking me, and they, for some reason, they lost his address, and I had memorized it, and I kept telling them what it was, and they finally listened to me. Mom and Dad finally paid attention to me, and sure enough, they found where he lived at in Fenton, Missouri. But he lived in a trailer.
That's pretty neat. That's pretty cool. So, how was Bobby to you?
Bob, I don't remember Bob in school either. But when he would come home from, he was working construction, and he would come home once in a while in between jobs, and, you know, he stayed at Mom and Dad's. But he was gone a lot too.
Okay. How would you describe Bob's personality?
Back then or now?
Now, or just in general?
Now? Well, we get along so much better now that we're all older. Time makes a difference. But back in school, me and Bob didn't get along. I couldn't do anything to please him, and he couldn't do anything to please me.
Well, that's like 100% of American families. How that happens.
Yeah.
They grow through the bumps, and they look back and realize they weren't really anything when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
All right, so
And we all grow up, we know.
Yep. So what about Marky? How about Marky?
Marky and I have always been close. I was always her shadow all my life. Marky's just a few years older than me. It broke my heart when she left Tell City. But anyway, we're really close.
So how would you describe her personality?
Just a spitting image of Mom. Got a heart of gold.
Okay. So what's one of your favorite memories with Kim growing up?
With Marky?
Yeah, sorry, Marky, yeah.
Oh, gosh. We have a lot of close memories just growing up. We were just really close. Mom and Dad would always let me go with Marky when Marky went out running around with her girlfriends. I always got to tag along. We were just very close. We still are.
Well, what's some place, where would you give me like a specific? Where would you guys go that was one of your favorite places to go together?
To go together. Just basically dragging Maine is what everybody did back then, was drag Maine. You know, her girlfriends had a car and they would let me tag along with them to drag Maine.
So how many people would be dragging Maine?
Back then, everybody drug Maine.
And would that be both Friday and Saturday nights?
Every night of the week. Every night of the week. And when we couldn't go out, because Mom and Dad didn't want us girls going out, we could see Main Street from our bedroom window. So we would lay on our bed and watch people drag Maine. Because on the other side of our house, from the alley, you could see Maine. There was an empty parking lot. So you could see everybody, recognize the cars, and know who was in it. And so now to this day, we even have an annual dragging Maine to come back. You know, now we do it again. I think this is like the third year where people come out and it's just bumper to bumper, drag Maine, honk the horn, wave at everybody.
That's pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to close this one out, and then we're going to talk about Joanne and Bert.
Okay.
This is Sean with Voices Live On. I'm speaking with Kim Huck, and we've been doing some favorite memories of the grandparents, parents, and family, siblings. And you are down in Tell City, and your husband's name is Pete, and your older sister, who recently passed, her name is Joanne, and her husband was named Bert. So we'd kind of like to talk about them a little bit. So what's one of the, how would you really kind of describe Joanne, and what are some of her characteristics that you admire?
Joanne was very tentative to other people's needs or conversation. She was always just right there. She was always a shoulder to lean on. She had open ears for everybody. And
then what's some things you remember when you were a kid? Because you were a few years younger than her. But what's some of the things that, like, what you went and did when she was around and she was older? Where were you? Were you dragging Maine, or what type of things do you remember her being around as an older sister?
As an older sister, when she came home from college on weekends, just sitting around talking with her. But when she was at college, Mom and Dad, she went to Owensboro, Kentucky. She went to Brusher College. Mom and Dad would go over there and visit her. And I would get to go, and we got to go through her dorm. She would show us her dorm. And then sometimes when she wasn't at the dorm, she would be working, and she worked at Windows Wonder Whip, which is still in business today. And she would let us have ice cream. It was her treat. But that was one of the memories I have at Joanne being in college.
Okay. So as you grew up and went through high school and into college, and you got to see her grow up, do you remember when she started dating Bert?
Yes. I was actually 10 years old when they got married. So this memory of Bert was before they got married. She was home for Christmas, and we were waiting for everybody to get to the house at 425 9th Street, and the telephone rang. Well, I answered it, and it was a male voice saying that there was an accident, and he was describing himself, and I busted out in tears, started crying because it was Bert that they were describing. And Joanne grabs the phone and she says, "Who is this?" And it was Bert. he was pulling a prank, and I happened to answer the telephone as he was describing himself.
Well, what happened?
He was playing a joke. He was a big prankster. He was always pulling a prank on somebody.
Well, I mean, did Joanne get pissed off, and did she kind of lay into him?
She lit into him, for doing that. She said that you've got Kim crying, but they had to. It was a prank. I didn't realize what pranks were, but that's what Bert was good at doing, was pulling pranks.
What's another prank you remember him doing?
Pardon me?
Is there any other prank you remember him doing?
Other pranks? Well, not to me, but yeah, he would pull other pranks. But one other time, this was after they were married. I almost lived with them. I don't know if their kids even know this, but Mom and Dad would always take me over to their house when they moved back to Mariah Hill. I don't even know when they moved back into Mariah Hill. But Bert built that house, and when they moved back to Mariah Hill, Mom and Dad would take me over there, and I would spend weeks over there. During the summer, I would spend my whole summer there. And one time, Bert took me out with him. He was out just running around. Well, he ended up stopping at different taverns to talk to his buddies. And I would sit in the family room, and he would buy me a drink, a soft drink. And he wasn't having beers every time we stopped somewhere, but when we got home and Joanne asked what the two of us were doing, she told her he took me bar hopping, and I was a teenager then, and she had a fit, but it ended up, being funny. That he was just talking to some of his buddies, and he knew where they were all at, different places. So he went there to talk to them. They all happened to be taverns.
That's pretty funny. So, did they come back and Joanne stayed down kind of in the area, didn't she? Through college she did. When her and Bert finally got married, then they moved to Joliet, Illinois. And then they were there for I don't know how many years. But Bert rented his house in Rye Hill to, I can't think of their name right now, but he rented the house, and then when they moved back here, the renters had to move out, and they moved back into the house. So, yeah, Joanne was always around here until her and Bert got married. Okay. And so as you saw them have Jim and Mike, and what's their sister's name? I blanked on it again. I apologize. It's Evelyn? Yvonne of John. Yvonne. So, I think, is Mike the oldest or is Yvonne the oldest?
Yvonne.
Okay. So when she was pregnant with Yvonne, were you able to go and spend time with her and kind of hear how that was when she gave birth to her first kid? Like, what's some of the things you remember about when she first became pregnant with the kids and some of those early memories with the kids?
Well, when they came back here, they had the two kids, Yvonne and Mike. So I don't remember then. But I do remember when Joanne was finishing getting her degree in teaching, I was babysitting for her, living with them during the summer, and babysitting for her, and we lived at Tulip Tree Apartments, and I can't remember if it was Terre Haute or Bloomington. But anyway, we went up there during the week and came home on the weekends, and I was babysitting Yvonne and Mike. And one time I got off the elevator and opened up the door to the wrong apartment, and it was a black family in that apartment. I was so embarrassed because here I am dragging these two little kids in. Well, we excused ourselves and made it back to the elevator again. But one time when we were going back up to the apartment, Joanne was crying all the way up there, just sobbing. You know, I thought I had done something wrong, and I didn't know what it was. Well, she didn't either. So we came back home that weekend, and her and Bert talked, and she ended up going to the doctor, and then that next week, I stayed at Mariah Hill and babysat the kids while Joanne went back up to school. Come to find out, she was pregnant with Jim, and her emotions were just going crazy, and that's why she was crying so much. So then we ended up, I just babysat the kids at the house, and then she traveled back and forth on the weekends, but stayed up there during the week. But that was when she was pregnant with Jim. So that was a nice memory to me, you know.
That's pretty neat.
I knew I hadn't done anything.
Right. So after she had Jim, you know, you were able to kind of get to know all the kids' personalities. What's some of the similar traits you saw in the kids that were the same as Joanne and Bert?
Oh, kids, just normal kids. One of the things that the kids, when they got older, well, not really older, but they got in a habit of calling me Mean Aunt Kim, because in the evening, before they went to bed, or before I put them to bed, I had them go through the living room, and pick up all their toys and take them back to their bedroom. So the living room was organized, you know, was straightened up. So they called me Mean Aunt Kim because I made them pick up their toys every evening. But they were just typical kids.
Okay. And what's some of the kind of favorite aspects of Joanne that really you've always kind of looked up to and admired over the years?
Okay, during holidays, Joanne always included me. You know, she would always ask me to come over early. Mom and Dad would take me over there. I would help her with whatever she needed done. You know, she did all the cooking. I would clean up after her. We were just a good pair. You know, we just worked hand in hand on things. She would always take me places with her. She would take the kids over to Christmas Village and go swimming, and she would always invite me to come over to help out with the kids. Even after the kids were all gone, Joanne had a condo in Florida. She would take me down to the condo with her and her girlfriends. She always included me with whatever she wanted to do.
That's pretty sweet. That's pretty sweet. So, is there anything else you'd like to kind of mention, just as far as one of the favorite memories of Bert or Joanne, that's something that just always kind of sticks out, that was just a really cool moment?
There was a couple times that we went to the condo in Florida. Once Joanne and I went down by ourselves, and Jordan, her granddaughter, she flew down from Colorado, and we got to spend the week together. And then one other time, there was a trip planned that I thought it was just me and Joanne going down. And when we get there, I think it was the next day, my mom and my other two sisters showed up, and it was a surprise for me. So it got to be Mom and all of us girls spend a week in Florida together at the condo. So she always made things special for people.
That's really cool. Was there anything, and this is a little random, but was there anything that she would cook that you loved eating?
Her turtle soup.
Turtle soup?
Her turtle soup.
Besides turtle, what's in her turtle soup?
What in the turtle soup besides turtle?
Yeah. I've never
ground
had...
ground beef and chicken.
Ground
up.
Really?
Ground beef, and ground chicken. Cooked chicken. And then spices, and then, of course, your tomato base. But it's not just turtle.
So, would Jim have to go find these turtles?
Well, years ago, Mr. Champion, my mom's next door neighbor here in Tell City, he used to get the turtles for Joanne.
Oh.
And yeah, and then Joanne Bert knew how to clean them, and then Joanne knew how to cook them. And then the day of the turtle soup, they would debone it and then put the meat in, and we would have a big turtle soup party. I mean, they made like 100 gallons of turtle soup in kettles, and it was the whole town of My Hill would come. And all of the family would be there. I mean, my brothers and sisters from all over, they would come home for the turtle soup parties. It was a big affair.
That's pretty great. I think Jim had mentioned the turtle soup to me at one point, but I had no idea how massive of an event that would be.
It is. And there was other things to eat those days. People who didn't like turtle soup, everybody brought a covered dish, so there was all kinds of desserts around, and then a lot of people would bring in like Merkley's hot dogs, or just, they had a grill going too, so people would cook hamburgers or whatever. But it wasn't just the turtle soup. That brought the party together, was the turtle soup.
Do you think because it was turtle soup that people were moving slower after they ate it?
Do what?
I said, do you think people were moving slower after they ate the turtle soup? That was a joke.
Okay, well, it cut out. It cut out. I thought I'm missing something there.
No, just referencing if you eat a bunch of turtle, you might move a little slower.
Move a little slower. Okay, I got it now.
All right, is there anything else that's just as we've been talking that's a memory that's kind of popped up, or anything you jotted down that you think would be good for the family to know? Any particular things at all?
Bert would always let me drive their car. Right when I first got my license, he had a blue convertible, and he would always take me riding in that. And then after I got my license, they let me drive it. Plus, when I was, after I got my license and I was staying over there with him, I would go to the store for Joanne for Christmas over at Santa Claus, and she would let me drive the car. So that was really neat.
Okay. You're still there?
Yes. Uh-huh.
All right, great. So I'm gonna close this one out, but I appreciate you sharing all the stories.
Okay. Hope everything works out.
You got it. Thank you.